shine on me. I wonder if the lighthouse will shine on me.
Oh, Lordy, won't the lighthouse shine, shine, shine on me?
When your world has turned around, why not smile? Don't wear a frown. Smile though your heart is aching. Smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by if you smile through your fear and sorrow. Smile, and maybe tomorrow you'll see the sun come shining through for you. Light up your face with gladness.
Hide every trace of sadness.
Although a tear may be ever so near, that's the time you must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? You'll find that life is still worthwhile if you'll just smile. You must keep on trying. Smile, what's the use of crying? Oh, you'll find that life is still worthwhile. Worthwhile. A smile is still worthwhile.
Thank you. A moment's notice. Thank you very much. Good morning. Welcome to Unity Spiritual Center Spokane. For those of you that are here in person, we love to see your faces. And for all of you that are on the World Wide Web, we love you too, and we're sending our blessings out to everybody online today. As our mission statement says, and I want you to listen to it carefully, there's some important words here. We are a vibrant community growing through spiritual practice and love. Community is really important. We are a community here, and we are growing and practicing spiritual love. I'm glad you're all here. I'm Jeff Hunter. I'll be your platform assistant this morning, and I want you to please take a moment to silence your cell phones. We appreciate that. As always, we want to begin our time together by sharing our opening affirmation. Together we affirm, there is only one presence and one power active in my life and in the universe, God the good. This is Unity's foundation principle. One presence, one power, one life, living through and as each one of us. Today we will hear from our Reverend Bonnie Barnard, and her talk is titled, the spiritual messages in the fairy tale Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. I can hardly wait for it. I kind of feel like Dopey today, so, you know. Is that the same Disney? Yeah, okay. I was sleepy earlier this morning, but... Our music today is provided by our own Scott Jameson and the quartet A Moment's Notice. Weren't they wonderful? I love that. Our chaplain, Al, will provide us with a reading and open us with a prayer. First, our song leader, Rick, will start us off with a community song.
Well, new month, new song. Please stand up and help me.
Good morning. Our quote today is from Ralph Waldo Emerson. We live in succession, in parts, in particles. Meantime, within us is the soul of the whole, the wise silence, the universal beauty to which every part and particle is equally related, the eternal one. And this deep power in which we exist and whose blessings are accessible to all is not only self-sufficient and perfect in every way, but the act of seeing and the thing seen, the subject and the object are one. We see the world piece by piece as the sun, the moon, the animal, the tree, but the whole of which these are shining parts is the soul. Let us pray. Take a moment, ground, relax. Allow the chair to effortlessly support you. Imagine your roots delving deep into Mother Earth and enter your sacred space of prayer. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God is one. God is all. God is all powerful. God is everything, everywhere, and every when. God is more than the sum of all that can be known. God is all loving, greater than its creation. It permeates and animates all creation. God is the ocean and we are the wave, but the wave is not separate from the ocean. It is made of ocean. I am one with this great allness. My mind is the universal mind. My love is the universal love. My life is the universal life. And as it is true for me, it is true for each one of you as well. From this oneness with all that is, was, and ever shall be, we realize that separation is illusion. We are one great being. The human body consists of trillions of cells, intertwined and interdependent, each with their own life and purpose. And yet the human being is more than the sum of these cells and their functions. It is spirit, whole, complete, and perfect. I bless this service and all who hear my words. I bless Reverend Bonnie and the Unity Spiritual Center. I bless our musicians and all those who make this service and this center possible. I know this and every moment is divinely ordained. I release this prayer into the universal mind, knowing that it is already done. And so it is. Amen.
May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. May the rain fall soft upon your fields, and until we meet again, may he hold you in his hand. May God hold you in the palm of his hand. Hold you in the palm of his hand.
Thank you. Thank you so much. A moment's notice. I love that. Woo. Yes, 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 yes. Today's a good day, right? Yes. All right. So there's a group of us who meet on Tuesdays to meditate. Everybody's welcome. It's at noon and it's in the chapel. And we meditate and afterwards we share what's going on within us. And Donnell shared, hi Donnell, shared this last Tuesday, and I got permission to say this because it's so good. She shared that her and her prayer partner were reading the daily word, and in it they read that God lives in us. God does life in us and through us, and that's how God experiences the planet, right? The earth, right? And so they said that they have this new motto, and that is when they wake up and when they talk to each other, they say, "We're going to show God a good time today." So, welcome to Unity Spiritual Center Spokane. My name is Reverend Bonnie Barnard, and welcome whether you're here in person or online. And those of you here, turn to each other and say, "We're going to show God a good time today." I love that. So last summer we had so much fun and we lightened things up because summer is light, as is our clothing colors that we showed up in today. We change, we become more, I'm going to say, more wavy than particly during summer. That there's something different about who we are. So our talks are lighter. And so this month in June, we're going to talk about the spiritual underpinnings and messaging of fairy tales. And then next month, we're looking at creativity. And on Wednesday nights, we will have creative gatherings with adults and with families and doing creative activities. And then August, we're back to movies. So it's a light and fun-filled spiritual experience that we will be sharing together. So the reason that I chose fairy tales is because they're moral and ethical stories that are told in basically all cultures. And there are hints and very obvious references to sacred scriptures in fairy tales. And so today I'm going to be looking at Snow White, and we're going to explore that story from a place of what that might mean to our soul, to our being, as I correlate it to a whole bunch of different stuff. Today's version of Snow White is the original version taken from Grimm's fairy tales written in 1812. And Snow White was the very first queen or princess in a Disney movie. As a fun fact, there are now 13. So she started the whole darn deal. So I'm going to start by looking at characters in the order of appearance. And we begin with Snow White. So Snow White in the story, you will notice as we go through it, is the only person who actually has a name. Every other character has an occupation or a station in life. Snow White is called Snow White as it is a symbol of purity and innocence. This is not to be confused with skin color because Jesus embodied purity and he was not white. So we're not talking about external, we're talking about the internal presence of purity and innocence. So we see in the very beginning that Snow White is born into this world, amplifying the idea of being in integrity with God, with self. And then we have the evil stepmother. So what we'll see as we go through the story is that Snow White is born to a king and a queen, and the mom dies. So what we learn from almost every Disney movie is there's a death of parents in the beginning of the movies. And in Disney movies, that is such because what it's saying is that, like Jesus had said, leave your family and follow me, is that how we develop internally as a human being is by having to deal with things ourselves internally instead of going to others to solve our problems. So there is naturally in the Disney movies the removal of the authority figure so that the young one has to develop their own authority. So we have in this that the mother dies, and we have the dad remarrying a year later to a stepmother. And just metaphysically, what that shows us is that she is an outsider. She's coming from the outside, okay? Then, every time we see her looking at, we call a mirror, and they called a glass something. When she looks at it, she's looking at it for her answers instead of, again, going inside. So she represents going outside. And according to Florence Scovel Shinn, how many of you guys remember her work with The Game of Life? She actually writes about Snow White, believe it or not. And she says, when we look at the story, we see that the cruel, evil stepmother is the negative thought forms that are built up within our own subconscious. So again, it's about how we perceive ourselves and then we push it outside. The next character we'll see will be the huntsman, and he's a hired hitman. And then we have the seven dwarfs. Now, in the original Grimm's fairy tale, the small men, the seven dwarfs, have no names. They're just referred to as seven little men, or they're referred to as seven dwarfs. The original Broadway play named them, and they named them Blick, Flick, Glick, Snick, Plick, Wick, and Quee. Okay? So Walt Disney went and saw that original play and said, I want to turn this into a movie. I want this to be my first big masterpiece. And it was so phenomenal. It won all kinds of movie awards because the technology that was used was so unique to its time. The Disney movies would go ahead and they would name the seven dwarfs after our friend Jeff. I did not realize that until he claimed it today. They're grumpy, happy, sleepy, bashful, sneezy, dopey, and Doc. And so each one is named after a human personality. And Florence Scovel Shinn says that they are the protective forces in the story that protect us from that which is evil. All right, and then lastly, we have our prince. And according to Florence Scovel Shinn, the prince is our divine plan in our life when we wake up to our happiness within. Okay? So, this is where it gets fun for me. I want to talk a little bit about numbers because they're so important. And what I want to remember is this time in history in 1812, when this Grimm fairy tale is written, is that the community is very Christian Catholic, and they understand the symbology. Many of us, because we may not have been grown up that way, may not have that same level of understanding. But those who participated in 1812 in these stories would get the inferences and the symbology of what's happening. So for me, what's really fun is not only looking at the characters, and when we get to the story, you'll see some of the similarities to that which we find in Scripture, but what we see is the use of numbers, which people, again, were trained in numerology or what numbers signify in the Bible. So interestingly enough, I counted in my 7 pages of story, I counted 21 sevens. And so here are some of them. We have Snow White was 7 years old when the queen realized she was more beautiful than her. There's the number 7. We have 7 little plates when she goes into the house. We have 7 little knives, forks, and drinking cups, 7 little beds. The 7th bed, she tried all the beds and none of them fit, but the 7th bed fit just right. Then we have the 7 dwarfs who light their 7 candles, and we have the 7th dwarf whose bed was taken, so he slept with the comrades. We have Snow White waking up to seeing the 7 dwarfs, and then we have got Snow White in the glen. That's when the evil stepmother looks in the mirror, she's told that Snow White is in the glen with 7 little men. And then she has to cross 7 mountains to get there. So we see the number 7 21 times. And this is what 7 means according to unity.net. Now, those of you who aren't familiar with that resource, Unity, the organization in which we're a part of, it used to have a metaphysical Bible that we looked everything up in. Now they have online a place called unity.net, and you can look up anything metaphysical, and it will have Fillmore's work, and it will have the Metaphysical Bible, and it will have Butterworth and all of the more current contributors at unity.net. So this is what it says about the number 7. 7 is so universally used as a mystical number that its basis must be in some fundamental arrangement of the natural world. So we're not talking about the spiritual world. When we talk about the number 7, we're talking about the completion, the wholeness, and the perfection of the natural world. The golden candlestick that was made expressly for use in the tabernacle in the wilderness from Exodus has 7 lamps. The candlestick is made of gold, and its lamp was used later in the Temple of Solomon built at Jerusalem, and that's mentioned in 2 Chronicles. And we know that the tabernacle and the temple represent our bodies. So again, the natural world. And that 7 lamps were symbols of 7 centers of each one of us, which could be chakras, right? The 7 centers. And that we also know that we have 7 senses. And this is interesting because Fillmore takes the 5 senses that all of us are aware of, and he adds 2 more senses to humans, and he calls them intuition and telepathy. So we have 7 senses. So the number 7 is all about everything is right in the world. Everything is right in the world. And so we also see that creation is made in 7 days. We also know that when Jesus asks us to forgive, he asks us to forgive 7 times 70, right? So 7 is the perfection in the realm of the human. So what brings me great joy in reading Snow White is all throughout the story, we can rest in knowing that all is well in the world. So wherever our soul is in this story, we can stop and realize the whole thing is peppered with the number 7, which is a code to us that everything's okay. Everything's okay. You're lost in the forest, it's okay. You're living with 7 little men, it's okay. Right? So, so then we have the number 3, and we see the number 3 twice in the story. It's in the very beginning and the very end. It is the book ends for the story. It begins with Snow White's mother cutting her finger and having 3 drops fall onto the snow. And I'll read that in a minute, but we have 3 drops in the snow. And then we have at the very end, when Snow White is killed, we have her in a glass container that we have our 7 dwarfs around lamenting for 3 days. So we've got the 3 going on. Now 3 means everything is all right in spirit. So 3 is our Trinity. 3 is our body, mind, and spirit. Jesus rises in 3 days. So it refers to resurrection and to life. And then the last number in the story is the number 1,000. And when the evil stepmother, cruel queen, looks into the glass and asks who's the fairest in the land, her answer almost all of the time is Snow White is 1,000 times more fair and beautiful than you. So 1,000 in the Bible means opposite of evil powers. It means the righteousness of God. So when she's looking in the mirror and asking for beauty, she's hearing back that Snow White is righteous. She is aligned with God. She has that purity. We see in the Bible Samson killing 1,000 Philistines with a jawbone of a donkey when they tried to enslave Israel people. We see that Satan is chained to spiritual bars for 1,000 years before the second return of Jesus, after which he will govern for another 1,000 years. So 1,000 is seen as like the spiritual perfection, and it also represents the angelic realm. So when the queen sees Snow White, she's looking at the angelic realm. All right, so here we go. Turn to the person next to you and say, here we go.
Here we go. You wake out. Here we go. All right.
Okay, so it was the middle of the winter and the snowflakes were falling like feathers from the sky, and a queen sat at her window working, and her embroidery frame was of ebony. And as she worked, gazing at times out at the snow, she pricked her finger, and there fell from it 3 drops of blood onto the snow. And when we saw how bright and red it looked, she said to herself, "Oh, that I had a child as white as snow, as red as blood, and as black as the wood of this embroidery frame." Not very long after, she had a daughter with skin as white as snow, with lips as red as blood, and with her hair as black as ebony, and she was called Snow White. And when she was born, the queen died. After a year had gone by, the king took another wife, a beautiful woman, but proud and overbearing, and she could not bear to be surpassed in beauty by anyone. She had a magic looking glass, and she said to it as she stood before it, "Looking glass upon the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And the looking glass would answer, "You are the fairest of them all." And she was contented, for she knew that the looking glass spoke the truth. Now Snow White was growing prettier and prettier, and when she turned 7 years old, she was as beauty as day, and far more so than the queen herself. So again, I'm not thinking 7 years old. I'm thinking this is a clue to the number 7, right? That she has stepped into worldly perfection. Okay, so one day when the queen went to her mirror, she says, "Looking glass upon the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" And it answers, "Queen, you are full fair, 'tis true, but Snow White fairer is than you." This gave the queen a great shock, and she became yellow and green with envy. And from that hour, her heart turned against Snow White, and she hated her. And this is so profound in our metaphysical journey, because what we say to ourselves is how we feel. So what we say about ourselves, what we say about others, is what cultivates inside our being. So it says, "And envy and pride like ill weeds grew in her heart higher and higher every day, until she had no peace day or night. At last she sent for a huntsman and said, 'Take the child out into the woods, so that I may set eyes on her no more. You must put her to death, and bring me her heart as a token.'" Oh, I like that you guys go, ooh. So the first attempt at getting rid of Snow White is with this huntsman, and the huntsman goes out, and Snow White begs and says, "Please don't kill me. Like, it's not my fault I'm beautiful." No, she didn't say that. She just said, "Please don't kill me." And she asked that her life may be spared, and she said, "I won't come back, I'll hide. The queen won't know." So the huntsman's heart opened, and he killed instead a wild boar and brought that back to the queen and said to the queen, "Here you go. I'm giving you Snow White's heart." Okay, in the meantime, Snow White, who is either 7 years old or is a teenager, she's somewhere in that I'm growing up stage, she's left in the wilderness by herself. She's left in the forest, she's left in the woods, and she's scared. It is unfamiliar to her. There are wild animals, there are strange sounds. It's unfamiliar, she doesn't know where she's going, she just knows that she has to leave where she's been. And so this is part of that hero's journey that we hear in so many stories, because it is in the place of the unknown where we learn to trust the presence of God, and it is in the unknown where our faith grows. So all of us go through scary periods filled with unknown creatures, unknown energies, oppositional energies even, and we go through that period as an opportunity to grow closer to God if we allow ourselves to. That is how we trust. That is how we learn to grow in faith. And so then she, after being absolutely exhausted, finds this little house and nobody's home. So she goes in and she sees the 7 little plates, and she sees the 7 little chairs and the 7 little beds. And so she eats some of the food and then lays down and is sound asleep. And that's when our 7 men, the dwarfs, come home and find her. So what is so sweet about that is they see this strange large woman in one of their beds and they let her sleep. So you can see that where Florence Scovel Shinn would say this is the internal part of yourself that keeps you safe. You can see where she came to that conclusion, because these 7 little guys are surrounding her and making sure she's okay. So in the meanwhile then, back to our queen, is that she is looking back in the mirror again, and it says, now the queen, having eaten Snow White's heart as she thought it was, because she thought it'd make her beautiful. So right? She felt quite sure that now she was the first and the fairest, and so she came into the mirror and she said, looking glass upon the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And the glass answered, Queen, thou art of beauty rare, but Snow White, living in the glen with 12 little men, is 1,000 times more fair. So now the queen becomes really angry, and she decides, well, the hired hitman didn't work, so I'm going to take this into my own hands. And so she dresses herself up. Oh, yes. She dresses herself up as an old hag, they say in the fairy tales, so they're always nice to women in fairy tales. She dresses herself up as someone who isn't her, and she gets on her horse. Oh, we're not done. You'll hear the horse again. She gets on her horse, and she makes it to the house of the little 7 men, and she says to Snow White, she says, Snow White, I'm here to sell goods. I'm a peddler. Oh my gosh, I bet you need a bodice. A bodice would be really great for you. And for those of you who are young and may not know what a bodice is, and those of us who are old and may not know what one is, it's that thing that squishes your body together so you look thinner. And why Snow White would need to look thinner in the middle of the woods doesn't make sense, but they're not supposed to make sense, okay? So she buys a bodice, and the queen wraps it so tight that it cuts off all of her circulation, and she drops dead. Snow White is gone, the queen did it. And I just stop here and pause and think that before we mature spiritually, when we don't like how we feel inside, we want to kill it outside. This is a very common human story. I don't like this, let's get rid of it. I don't like this, let's get rid of it. So she's thinking she's getting rid of the purity and the beauty and the presence that she does not have. And you can notice that this is the voice within us when we haven't healed that blames and complains and attacks. And we contrast that to Snow White, who is curious and innocent and in the flow. Whatever's going on, she flows with it. So we see that, right? So the stepmother gets into the mirror again, and well, first of all, the 7 dwarfs come home, and they see her dead lying on the floor, and they go, come on, let's get the scissors, only they didn't have scissors then, so it was probably a knife. And they said, let's cut this bodice off of her, and poof, she could breathe, and she was alive again. And she told them that the queen had fooled her, what the queen had done, and they said, do not let anybody into this house. I don't care how they show up, what they look like, don't let them in because you're in danger. So back at the castle, the queen asks, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And her answer is, Queen, thou beauty art rare, but Snow White is living in a glen with 7 little men, and she's 1,000 times more fair. And she goes, oh my God, she must have lived through what I did. Now I got to do it again. So she gets on a different outfit, puts on a new disguise, takes a poison comb, goes through the forest, and when she gets there, she comes this time with a poison comb. And she says, oh, look at your beautiful hair, let me comb it for you. She combs her hair with poison, bloop, Snow White is gone. So she's all proud of herself. She goes back home, and what happens is the 7 men, the protectors inside of her, come, surround her, see the comb in her hair, realize, oh, she was probably poisoned with that comb, remove it. Snow White lives. Okay, so she's alive again. So back we are to the looking glass on the wall. The queen, who is the fairest of them all? It says, Queen, thou art a beauty rare, but Snow White living in the glen with 7 little men is 1,000 times more fair. And when she heard the looking glass speak, she trembled and shook with anger. Snow White shall die, she cried, though it will cost me my own life. So I don't know how many of you have ever gotten to a place where you have externalized something so horrifically that you're out to get it and you're willing to put your whole life on the line for it. You know, you're like, she's gonna go no matter what. If I'm not the winner, nobody can be. So she puts together a poisoned apple. Now this is what we know. In the story of Adam and Eve, there was a forbidden fruit, and it later became known that it was an apple. It never was an apple, it was a forbidden fruit. But in Latin, the word evil is malum, and the word apple is malus. So there's just a change in one letter there, and so historians think that the reason so many of us think that it's a forbidden apple is because of how close in Latin that word is. But here we see it in the story, and this is her final chance and opportunity to kill Snow White. So this apple has one side that's really red and the other side that isn't as red. It's kind of a white color, and she poisons the red side, and she goes to Snow White. Oh my God, I can't forget my cue. She goes to Snow White, and she says, look at this beautiful apple, and puts the red side toward her and says, doesn't it look good? And she says, oh no, I'm not going to eat anything from a stranger. I've done this before. This is bad news. And so the cruel stepmother says, well, let me take a bite of the apple and show you that there's no poison in it. So she bites the white side, and she gives Snow White the red side. Snow White takes a bite, dead. Okay? Now, our sweet men come home. They find her dead, and they can't revive her. And she's so beautiful that they didn't want to put her in the ground because the ground is dirty. So what they did is they built a glass, what's that called?
Sarcophagus.
Thank you. And they put her in it so that they could sit and look at her. They loved her, and she's beautiful. So she's out in the woods, and they took vigil for 3 days and 3 nights. Again, back to the Bible. They're around, and then after that, one at a time would take a vigil and just stare at her and make sure she was okay. And this just so reminds me that when any one of us has been around someone who embodies the divine presence, that we just want to keep that, you know, like it is so powerful and so beautiful, and something within us activates. And so even with her energy out of her body, the men are like, if I just sit here, I can have that purity myself. I can have that experience. So she's out in the forest, and one day the son of a king, also known as a prince, comes by. And he sees this beautiful woman, and he says, oh my gosh, I have to have her. And they're like, she's dead. And he goes, that's okay, she's so beautiful, I just want to see her regularly. I would like my footmen to bring her to the castle. And they had to have a little conference about it and talk about it because she brought them so much joy. And they came to a place where they realized, yes, that he could have her. So he had, the prince had his footmen carry the coffin of glass, and as they were walking, they would step on some of the rough ground, and it dislodged the apple out of her throat. And then she sat up and goes, what am I doing in this glass? I'm alive! I'm alive! And the prince turns around and says, will you marry me? And she says, yes, I will. And the two of them go to get married, and they invited the stepmother to come. So the very last scene of the looking glass is the queen is looking in the glass, and she says, looking glass upon the wall, who's the fairest of them all? And the answer is, O queen, although you are beautifully rare, the young bride is 1,000 times more fair. Then she railed and cursed and was beside herself with disappointment and anger. First she thought she would not go to the wedding, and then she felt that she wouldn't have peace unless she went and saw who was more beautiful than she is. And when she saw her, she knew it was Snow White, and she could not leave from that inner place of anger and terror. And the story ends with the cruel queen putting on some iron shoes that had been left in the fire, and she danced and she fell dead. So this is my takeaway. These are my takeaways, and I hope you have many yourself. My first takeaway is that purity, light energy, whatever you want to call it, can be threatening to those who have not yet activated theirs. Okay? We see that with Martin Luther King Jr. We saw that with Gandhi. We've seen people of light on our planet who are so magnificent that they threaten people who have not yet developed that level of consciousness. And in Fillmore's work, he would say we have third dimensional, fourth, and fifth dimensional consciousness. So those who are of the world in third dimension have a very, very different view than someone who's risen above that. And so the person of third dimension is dangerous, or can be if they haven't yet done the work. Second is that jealousy and envy would kill the queen. Remember, she said, I'm willing to die. So the jealousy and the envy would kill her. And the question Florence would ask would be, what is in your unconscious mind right now that is driving you until you become conscious and shifted? So what's going on inside of you that you have that immense emotional energy around until you're willing to look at it and shift it? Third is that, and I love the time when she's in the woods, third is that trust and faith are built in the unknown. And what I love to say is that God is in the known, is in the unknown. So some people will say like, oh, I'm so afraid of the unknown. And I say, yes, but that's where God is. So always remember that God is in the unknown. And then lastly, what we see at the ending of the story is that good is always around the corner. So let's go into meditation. Thank you, Gay, for that plastic. I called her last night, I need hoofs. So unity does say that all there is God, and so how lovely and wonderful it is that when we begin in the allness and the onlyness of God, we recognize and know that any and everything can be a teaching tool for us if we're awake to it. And so let's just close our eyes and allow this story, this beautiful moral and ethical story of our inner journey, to happiness. Let's just sit with that in silence for a few minutes. And so I just give thanks for the awareness of God's good within each one of our lives. I give thanks for the revelation that Donnell had that today we're going to show God a good time. I give thanks that as we lean into this incredible presence of love and peace and joy and creativity, of awareness, of newness, of health, of prosperity, of abundance, of well-being, of health, as we lean into that divine presence, we can trust that it is within us and there for us 100% of the time. And so how lovely it is that we come together as community to remember it, and how lovely it is we come and do spiritual practices together, that we may be able to laugh at our small self understandings and have compassion for it while we open up to something larger and greater going on. I give thanks for this spiritual center. I give thanks for all of the chaplains that are holding the high watch and always do. I give thanks for their prayers for us daily. I give thanks for the board that does the work of the business behind the center. I give thanks for the volunteers and the music and the wonderful musicians we had today. I just give thanks that there is a good that is amongst us, and I give thanks that each one of us is able to see it, and for the goodness and glory of God and all that is unfolding in each of our lives. I say thank you, thank you, thank you, Holy Spirit. And together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
Why don't you swing?
Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I've got a home on the other side.
Swing, 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 swing.
Well, Ezekiel went down to the middle of the field, saw an angel working on that chariot wheel. Wasn't so particular about that chariot wheel, he just wanted to see how that chariot feels. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I got a home on the other side.
Swing, 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 swing.
Well, Ezekiel went down and he got on board. Chariot went a-bumping on down the road. Wasn't so particular about that bumping down the road. He just wanted to lay down his heavy load. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I got a home on the other side. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I got home on the other side. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Swing down, chariot, stop and let me ride. Rock me, Lord, calm and easy. I got home on the other side. On the other side.
Yay, would you guys introduce yourselves? I was negligent in not putting
Miss
your names
Mole,
down.
Larry, no.
Mike Swain
Mike Swain, Lance Cox.
Chuck Harris.
and Lauren Rance.
Thank you. I usually get the names in advance, and thank you for introducing yourselves. You were an absolute delight today. So now's our time for giving, and I invite you to take it. I invite you first just to ask your higher self, what is yours to give today? And just check in and see, because sometimes we let our little, what Fillmore would call an adverse ego mind, get in the way and say, I don't have enough, or I can't, or whatever our little language is. And I invite you to put that aside and allow the Spirit to guide you as to what is yours to give today. I don't think my mic is on, but I invite you to ask what is yours and to take that gift, that tithe, that offering, and just hold it against your heart. And we say that we have bills here to pay at the center, which is true. A greater truth is that God gives and we re-gift as love back to God. So it's a spiritual practice that we give. And so as we hold our gift to our heart and remember that it is love giving love to love, let's say our prayer together. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share.
Doomba 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 dooba doomba 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 dooba doomba 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 dooba doomba doomba doomba.
I'm sitting on top of the world, just rolling along, just rolling along. Well, I'm quitting the blues of the world, just singing a song, just singing a song. Glory, hallelujah, I just phoned the parson, a party ready to call. Just like Humpty Dumpty, I'm ready to fall because I'm sitting on top of the world, just rolling along, just rolling along. I'm sitting on top of the world,
Oh yeah.
rolling along, rolling along.
Bumba dooba dum bum
Well, I'm quitting the blues of the world, just singing a song, singing a song. Glory, hallelujah, I just found the parson, a party ready to call. Just like Humpty Dumpty, I'm ready to fall because I'm sitting on top of the world, just singing a song, I'm sitting on top of the world.
All right. Oh, good, we're working. All right, Jeff, you would take my hand? Thank you. Thank you, sir. All right, so let's extend our hands out towards this gift. And I just give thanks that the presence of God is always giving to us, always, and that we have the opportunity to open wide and give through us. So God gives to us, and then we open and give outward. How lovely it is and what a privilege it is to give to our spiritual center. I just know that this money is used to support staff and programming and the building and everything that is necessary in order to be a spiritual center. I give thanks that God always has and always does fund and provide. So I bless this money and I speak words of multiplication upon it. We know that Jesus multiplied everything, so we just allow ourselves to know that we have the power within us to multiply. So we multiply the gifts and the offerings, and we know that that reflects back to the giver. And so for this continued good that expands always and forever, we give thanks, and together we say, and so it is. Amen.
Well, we want to thank Scott and our wonderful quartet for a wonderful. A choir next fall, Thursday nights at 6:30. I'm talking to the four of you behind Scott there, okay. And of course, I want to thank Bonnie for a beautiful service today. I didn't realize Snow White had to go through all the hell that she went through, but I hope the Snow White in us meets the Prince in us also. So that would be very good for all of us. All right, now we're at the time that I like. We will repeat the unity statement. Together, unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, for love in the presence of hatred, for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names for God, the many paths for God. For we know that there is only one power, one presence, and one life. So whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual journey of transformation, you are welcome here. Especially the month of diversity, June. This is a great month. I'm excited about all of the activities that are going to be happening where we can include everybody in our society, absolutely everybody. I think that's very, very important. Sorry for the, but I wanted to say that. So, and I'm up here and I got the microphone, so I can do that. All right, if you're here for the first time, we welcome you. We're glad you're here. And we have a packet that has some coupons in it and lots of goodies. And you get a coupon for a free drink at our barista stand. So if you are brave enough to raise your hand and let us know that you're here, we'd love to recognize you. Is there anybody here for the first time? All right, welcome. We're glad you're here. We encourage everyone to sign up for our email newsletter that comes out every Wednesday, sometimes Thursday. But it's full of our upcoming classes, our events, everything that's happening here at the center. And it's really a good read. I read it every Wednesday or Thursday. And you can sign up for it by scanning the QR code on the screen or the QR codes around the center. We'd also like to connect with you on social media, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. Just search for Unity Spiritual Center Spokane. to find us. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today, including the people that are online. Our chaplains today are Gary, who has been holding the service in prayer, and Diane, who will be available to pray with you immediately following the service here in the sanctuary. If you have something that's heavy on your heart or a joy that you want to share, please take advantage of Diane today. You can also submit your prayer requests online. There's a form right in front of you, in the seat pocket in front of you. And you can also go online and submit a prayer request. Those prayer requests are prayed on here for 30 days and also sent to Silent Unity and prayed on for 30 days. And now, the star of the show, giving us news you can use, the one and only Gay Kruger-Ribble.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy Pride Month. So in celebration of Pride, let's take a look at what's new in the Unity store. Can you hit the commercial, please? The sound? Also, this Saturday, we are going to have a Unity booth at Pride. And we are looking for people to volunteer to be a part of that. I'm really excited about this because it's going to be a joint effort with Unity North as well. And one of the things that we've decided to do is we've got the booth all set up for a photo shoot. And there's going to be a lot of costume pieces for people to try on. So for the families and the kids and anyone who wants to do some pictures for social media. So it's going to be really fun. And we're also hoping that you'll be there to represent, whether you can volunteer or you can even stop by. Please let us know today if you're interested in volunteering. You can either talk to me or talk to Deanna afterwards. There's going to be 3-hour shifts, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's something that you'll remember always. So I'm hoping that many of you will come to me afterwards and say, yes, I'm interested. And that's it for today.
Thank you, Gay. All right. I think our kids have arrived, so now it's time to welcome them in by singing Walking in the Light. We are walking in the light of God, in the light, 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 in the light of God. We are walking in the light, 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 in the light of God. Oh, we are so blessed to have these children here today and all the people that work in our youth ministry. You are so blessed. All of you are so blessed. And remember, first Sunday of the month. If you have a birthday in June, we'd love for you to stand so that we can honor you. So please stand if you have a June birthday. Oh, yay. And here we go. Let's sing happy birthday. Happy birthday, we love you. Happy birthday, and may all your dreams come true. When you blow out the candles, one light stays aglow. It's the love light in your eyes, wherever you go. All right, happy birthday. All right, put your hands together and let's bless these beautiful people that are sitting up here on the stage. Ready? Be the love you are, sing the song you hear, share your joy of life with people far and near. And for ourselves, be the love we are, sing the song you hear, share our joy of life with people far and near. All right, children, you can join the people that brought you. Okay? And now, if you are able, please stand so we can pray the prayer of protection followed by the peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth.